Hello. Yesterday I made a little video called Story Behind the Song, and people seemed to like it, so I thought I would do a few more. Today's song is Raised on Radio. It's a song taken from the first Skin album, same as Look But Don't Touch. For those, this is the riff to it. And then there's like a secondary riff which goes or something like that anyway. For those who are into music, you know, the basic scale that everyone knows, which is a major scale. If you change one note of that, the second to last note, and you turn it into and that's called a Mixolydian scale, but it gives you the ability to play all these little melodies, you know, like and lots of very famous riffs have been built around that. Probably the most famous one is "She Sells Sanctuary" by The Cult, but that sounds like a music lesson. But anyway, the story behind the song is quite important within Skin, because it was the first song that we wrote for Skin, even though the band wasn't called Skin at the time. And it was on the very first demo, along with Look But Don't Touch and Functified, which got us signed to Parlophone Records. They really liked this song. So after that, we then write loads and loads of other songs, and we go over to Los Angeles and record the album. And I'd kind of grown out of that title. At the time, I thought I wasn't raised on radio. In the UK, you didn't have rock on the radio. You had one Friday night rock show. So I thought it was a little bit hypocritical to have a song called Raised on Radio when I wasn't. So I changed the lyrics to Out of Love Again, I think it was, and we re-recorded this brand new song, which I thought was much, much better. So then we sent it over to Parlophone Records, and they said they didn't like it, and they wanted Raised on Radio. And at the time, I felt a little bit pissed off that the record company would tell us what to do. But, you know, we were basically told you've got to do it. Now, this is the part which becomes a lesson for musicians. You have to, if you think at the time, the money that was being spent on bands was absolutely ridiculous. And the producer at the time, Keith Olsen, he basically said to the record label, well, if you want the song re-recorded, it's going to cost another $10,000. Now, the reality is, all Neville had to do was go in, re-sing the vocal, which would maybe taken a few hours, and comped it, and the whole thing would have been done in less than a day. But this was his way of getting a whole bunch of money out of the record company, which ultimately we would be billed for. It was sold to us in the way that, yeah, we're going to get all this extra money and we're going to have a big party. And the dumb fucks that we were, we fell for it. Because there was no party. You know, basically it was just another way of getting a load of money out the record label. And the other thing you have to take on board is that in order to recoup $10,000, which was about £7,500, you had to sell 7,500 records. You know, which for a band now would be incredible. But so that was just like another example of how back in the day the record label would, you know, spend all of this money, and everyone would be trying to take the money off of the band, and the band wouldn't get any of it. I think when we left Parlophone Records, we owed them about £500,000. Of course, there was no chance of ever getting it back. But when you're having £7,000 thrown just to re-record a new vocal, you can see how the bills got higher and higher. So And now the fact that they made us re-record this song kind of pissed me off a little bit more. So my way of retaliating was that we never played the song live, and I just sort of refused to play it. But you know, you have to hold your hands up when you make a mistake, because ironically, Raised on Radio is the song that's probably the only song that's played on Planet Rock Radio, and it has stood the test of time. You know, so sometimes, you know, a lesson is you don't have to be so stubborn that you're hindering your own career. So that's the moral of the story. I mean, thankfully now that whole model of a band running up like 250,000 or 500,000 is just, it's like a dinosaur thing that doesn't happen anymore. And now, you know, musicians not only have to be a lot smarter with the way that they record, they're not going to run up these ridiculous bills anymore. So that's the moral of the story. You know, it's a song that still stood the test of time. But sometimes, you know, if you're going to take the credit for some decisions, you also have to take the blame for some of the other ones. So that's my little story for the day, and I hope you like it.